Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about Chapter 10. So for this class, I would like to start with Chapter 10, which is the data analytics in accounting. And we're going to talk about the concepts and the model we use for data analytics. So I start with Chapter 10 mainly because I would like you guys to have a hands-on experience first before we get to a more abstract concept in other chapters. So for this chapter, we're going to go through Excel functions and work on some data with by Excel. So you're gonna learn a lot of Excel skills, hopefully. Okay. So as I said, this video, we'll just cover some concepts. Okay. All right. So first of all, we heard big data a lot. So you heard big data a lot. So what exactly big data is? So the book has a formal definition. The keyword here I highlighted here is it's a data set that are too large and complex for business existing systems. So which means that for different organizations, the definition of big data will be different. Okay, some organization is able to handle bigger data, and some organization will be able to handle smaller data. But the common characteristics will be large and complex. So they're too large and complex for us to handle. Use their traditional system. To what do we do with the data? To capture, store, manage, and analyze. So if the data set fits in this definition, and we call it big data, basically just a lot of data, and then the traditional system are not able to handle. So usually, formally, we like to describe big data using these 4 V's. As you can see from the slides here, the 4 V's are volume, variety, velocity, and veracity. Okay, so what do they mean? They just describe what big data characteristics are. So the big data usually comes in a big volume and could be generated from log, event, social media, from different resources, and could come in various format. Could be unstructured, semi-structured, or structured. So what this means is that structured databases are organized and easy to use or analyze. Okay. The velocity, what does that mean? It's just the speed of the data generation. It just describes the speed, how fast the data was generated. And last V is veracity. Veracity means the accuracy. Can we trust the data accuracy? Is it accuracy? So usually we just use the 4 V's to describe big data. Okay, and then how do we handle this big data is called data analytics. Okay, so it's very popular. It's a trending right now, and all the accounting students, accounting profession, like in high demand of data analytics, data analysts. So data analysts, what they do is to examine raw data, remove noise, and organize the data, and then transform the raw data that doesn't have any meaning for decision making. Okay, so basically we transform the unorganized, tremendous data into meaningful information. So that process, that science, is called data analytics. Why do we need to do this data analytics? What is the impact of this process on our life, on our business life? So kind of like we have seen, the data analytics can generate value for business. So the value generation of big data on business has been documented by a study from McKinsey Global Institute. Okay, so why the data analytics could actually generate value generating? So that's because data analytics analyze patterns, investigate anomalies, and then they use this pattern they analyze to predict future. So for example, the business can use data analytics tools to analyze their customers' behavior and see and figure out what product is more popular or what product the customer likes. Okay, what product they should produce and they should put more resources on. So that's how the data analytics generate the value for the business. And we are all accountants. So like what data analytics do to our profession? This is huge. We know that accounting is a system to generate information. We are information system, right? Financial accounting, managerial accounting, whatever, what type of accounting we work on our goal is to generate useful information. So the impact of data analytics on accounting would be on financial reporting and also on auditing. Okay, so in terms of financial reporting, again, it's similar to the business impact on business. Collect data. Data analytics the tools will be collect data and analyze the environment, analyze the competitor, customer, suppliers' behaviors, and then make some sort of predictions. In terms of auditing, mainly is to help auditors identify risk. What type of risk? So what type of risk the auditor worry about? They worry about the financial reporting, risk of misreport. Okay, so mainly the auditor's job is to see whether the financial report is prepared in coordinate with GAAP. So basically, like the auditors worry about the risk of misreporting. Okay, so how do we do this data analytics? A common model, what we call is AMPS model, is used. So this is not any like fancy model that you will think about. It's just means that the 4 steps when we have a big data and how we deal with it. So first, we need to ask a question. And second is master the data. And then we need to perform the analysis. After that, we have some discoveries, and then we will share the story. Okay, so that's the data analytic process. So we're gonna go through each step briefly. Ask a question. It's like, okay, what do you want the data to tell you? So the data are there, but you have to ask a relevant question to help you to make decisions. Some questions that common questions would be like, which product is most profitable at certain stores? Okay, is it more profitable to produce an item in the United States or in foreign countries? Things like that. So I'm not going to go through all the questions. So those are all valid questions that management wanted to know the answer for. So then you ask a question and then you look for the data. So the second step is master the data. So when we master data, we try to find the data, and the data we're trying to find should have the 4 attributes. Okay. First of all, we need to see whether the data is accessible. So what is the data accessibility? It's asked that what type of data do we need, and how much does it cost to obtain the data? If it's too costly, we are not going to get the data. So whenever we're trying to get some information or data, we always compare the cost of acquiring the data and analyzing the data and the benefit of having the data. So that's accessibility. Okay, so master data. And we also need to to figure out whether the data is clean and complete, so the reliability of the data. And the third one is integrity, so whether the data is accurate and is it consistent across time, across firms. And lastly is called data type. Is it organized? And is there any privacy concerns? Like we can't really get this is a private data we have to buy or something like that. So the second step, master data, is to understand the four main things that I listed here, okay? Data accessibility, data reliability, data integrity, and data type. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about audit data standard. So we see that data can come in all type of different format, different presentation wide, so it's hard to understand. Then the in the auditing profession, the AICPA comes up with a standard called Audit Data Standard, ADS. So the ADS is the goal of ADS is to help facilitate the exchange of data between auditors and their clients. Okay, basically trying to set a standard for data file and fields, so then the people who input the data will use consistent format to input the data, and the user of the data will be able to understand it. So for the standard for data file and the field to be used consistently. And the ADS also, with the ADS, it allows the standard software producers such as ACL to offer data extraction programs. So everybody will use the same program and then to input the data and extract data so that, it's easy to understand. So here is just an example of the field attributes. We don't have to go through this in very detail. It's just listed out that if you wanted to input a journal ID, then the journal ID has to be in the text format, and the length needs to be 100. Okay, so the XBRL element we'll talk about later, and the description of that is that it has to be unique for each journal entry. So this is just the example. So for our purpose, we don't have to understand. You just need to know that ADS is the audit data standard to be used across the audit process, and then trying to have a consistent data file and field. Okay, so that's a second step of the AMPS model, master the data, which is trying to understand your data. And then the third step is very important, is to perform the analysis, because unless we perform the analysis, we don't understand what the data can tell us. So usually there are 4 types of analysis that we can do. So this is a big type, broader category. Okay, you need to understand each of that. The first one is called descriptive analysis. So descriptive analysis kind of answers what the data look like, what has happened. From the data, what can you tell what has happened? For example, if you have a data set that has the sales from all different locations, and the descriptive analysis will just tell you the average of the sales amount across all the different locations, and the highest sales, lowest sales, those sort of the basic statistics of the data set. That's a descriptive analysis. Okay, and the second one is diagnostic. Diagnostic analysis asks a question: why did it happen? So like that, my last example, we have 10 stores in different states and the sales amount is different. We should ask why some state, for example, like Ohio, has the lowest sales. Okay, So diagnostic will try to do that. And so the diagnostic usually use regressions, something like that, and you see, oh, okay, it's probably because they have unexperienced cells, something like that. So you can put cells experience a number of years, they do the cells, and then in the table. So we're gonna cover that later. Right now, just trying to walk you through what the 4 types of analysis is. And the third one is predictive. So that is kind of like pretty straightforward. So with the data, what can we predict? What would be the future cells based on the current data? And then lastly is prescriptive analysis. Basically, it's a little bit like number 2, related to number 2. So you figure out, oh, okay, the Ohio has the lowest cells because they don't have experienced cells. So then prescriptive analysis will just say, okay, what can we do? What can we do with it? Okay, so that's a 4 type of analysis that data analytics is capable of. Okay, and then in the next slides, next couple classes, we're going to work on the real data, 4 labs of the data that I'm going to post on the Canvas. And each lab will deal with one type of analysis we just talked about. Okay. And the last step is share the story. The S means share the story, which will be talked about in chapter 11. Okay, so what are the takeaways of this video? You know, even though I spent like 15 minutes on this video, but it's really not that much you need to fully understand. Mainly it's for introduction purpose. So first of all, you need to understand what the model means, the AMPS model. What does this mean? The 4 steps. And the second is you should really understand what this data analysis means, the 4 types of data analysis. Okay, of course, we also cover what big data is and the 4 V's. So those could be in the test as well. So, okay, so that's the video for this one.